What would you do if you want to withdraw your own money and they told you that you couldn't just because of how you look? And what if the person discriminating against you didn't know that you're actually the top boss? A black woman walked into a bank like any other customer. They gave her nasty looks. They humiliated her. But what no one knew was that she was the CEO. What happened next? The whole country saw it. Monday, 8:14 a.m., in one of the busiest branches of Banco Central Financiero in the northern part of the city. Wearing a pristine white blouse, beige linen pants, and discreet heels, Amara Johnson walked in. A 39-year-old black woman with shoulder-length braids and a gaze that radiated strength. She held her purse tightly in both hands. Calmly, she approached window number 3. Behind the glass sat Sandra Munoz, a white teller in her 30s, slim, with her hair in a tight bun. She chewed gum lazily and scrolled through her phone before glancing over her glasses. Full name? Sandra asked without making eye contact. Amara Johnson. I'm here to make a withdrawal. Do you have an appointment? No, I just came to withdraw some fund from my account. Are you a premium client? She asked disdainfully, checking the system. Amara calmly handed over her ID. Sandra took it, barely hiding her disapproval. She looked her up and down and frowned. Look, you can't just withdraw amounts like this. What kind of amounts? Amara asked, still composed. You're saying you want to withdraw 50 million pesos. Sandra scoffed. What do you do for a living? Are you like an influencer or something? Amara clutched her purse tightly, saying nothing. Look, you don't seem like someone who has that kind of account, and this could be fraud. I'm going to need you to step aside while I call the floor manager. Chapter 2. This isn't your place. A murmur began behind Amara. People in line were watching. Some whispered. She probably came to make stuff up, one woman muttered. I'd be suspicious too. Sandra crossed her arms. I'll need you to sit over there and wait. And please don't cause any trouble. Amara raised her head, but didn't move. I'm not going to sit. I want you to explain what criteria you're using to decide that I don't look like someone who has the right to withdraw her money. Oh, don't get aggressive, please. Some of us are just trying to do our jobs, Sandra said loudly, as if speaking to an audience. At that moment, Camillo, the floor manager, appeared, a mixed-race man in his mid-40s with a crooked tie. What's going on here? Sandra rushed to his side, playing the victim. This lady says she has an account, but the amount she wants to withdraw is huge, and she doesn't have any extra documents. And she's been rude. She's been rude, Camillo asked, looking at Amara. Not at all, she replied coldly. I'm just waiting for a professional to help me. Camillo motioned to Sandra to show him the system. She pointed at the screen. Look, this account has restricted access. And do you know why? Amara interrupted, raising an eyebrow. Sandra and Camillo looked at each other. Because I personally ordered that restriction. Camillo frowned. What do you mean? I'm Amara Johnson, CEO of Banco Central Financiero. I'm making unannounced visits to branches to assess service quality and customer care protocols. And you, she said, looking straight at Sandra, have failed every part of it. Chapter 3. You can't be the CEO? The whole line went silent. Sandra's mouth dropped open. Her face turned from bright red to pale white. What? No, that's not possible. Amara pulled her phone from her purse and put it on speaker as she dialed a number. Hi, this is Amara. Please confirm my identity to the teller at branch 12. I'm handing you the phone. Sandra took it with trembling hands. A voice on the other end said, She's the president of the bank. Treat her with respect. Immediately, Sandra hung up without a word. Camillo stepped back awkwardly and muttered, We didn't know. Sorry, that wasn't the intention. What wasn't the intention? To discriminate against me for being black? To deny me service because I'm not dressed like some fashion magazine executive? To judge me without checking facts? To humiliate me in front of clients? Sandra began to sob. I didn't mean to. It's just it seems suspicious. Don't worry. Everything is being recorded. And I won't leave this branch until I've spoken to every client here. We're launching a full audit. Camillo, gather the staff. This is just the beginning. Chapter 4. Dirty laundry doesn't always get washed at home. As the murmurs grew like waves after an earthquake, Amara Johnson didn't blink. She turned towards the line of customers. with the confidence of someone who has survived 1,000 battles. "Ladies and gentlemen, I ask for a few minutes of your time," she said, loud and clear. "What happened here is not an isolated case. It's a symptom, and as the CEO of this bank, it's my duty to listen to you. Anyone who has had a bad experience can speak up without fear today." Silence. Then, as if the chains of fear had been broken, a woman raised her hand. "Me? Last week, I came with my daughter, and this same teller looked at us like we were trash, just because we were wearing domestic worker uniforms." Another voice, this time from a young man with curly hair. "They made me wait an hour for a card change, and they attended to a white guy who arrived after me. No one said anything." The testimonies began falling like dominoes. Some people were recording with their phones. Amara listened, furrowing her brow as if she were collecting pieces for an inevitable trial. Camillo, the floor manager, swallowed hard. He felt cornered. Sandra had stopped crying. She was now stiff, as if frozen. "Is this how you treat your customers?" Amara asked, now looking at the bank workers who were beginning to leave their cubicles, alerted by the commotion. "How many perception errors like this have you justified with excuses?" Chapter 5. Confidential Report. Suddenly, a tall young man in a formal jacket and glasses rushed over. It was Julian, Amara's personal assistant. He was carrying a black briefcase. "Amara, I have the results of the internal audit report for the last 3 months. Just what you asked for." "Thanks, Julian. Can you read the numbers on complaints about discrimination based on ethnic profile?" "Of course. Branch 1214 complaints recorded for mistreatment of Afro-descendant people, 8 of which are directly related to teller Sandra Munoz. In all of them, there were documented unjustified delays, denial of services, and use of derogatory language." A collective "oh" ran through the room. Sandra began hyperventilating. She tried to speak, but Amara interrupted her. "I don't want your apology. I want you to learn. Because today, you are the perfect example of what we are going to eradicate from this bank: arrogance, ignorance, and racism disguised as protocol. I have a family to support." Sandra screamed, on the verge of a breakdown. "They're ruining my life over a damn misunderstanding." Amara approached her slowly, without raising her voice. "You ruin lives every time you humiliate someone for how they look. Every time you make a black woman doubt her dignity. And today, for the first time, that life you try to crush is looking down on you." Chapter 6. The Media Doesn't Forgive. Outside the bank, cameras were already arriving. A couple of local reporters were covering what was quickly becoming viral. Black CEO unmasks racism at bank in real time. Amara walked out of the branch with a firm step. She approached the journalists as a cloud of flashes surrounded her. "I didn't come seeking revenge," she said. "I came seeking justice. And justice begins when we stop silencing what hurts. Today, it didn't happen to me. It happened to thousands who never had a way to defend themselves." Suddenly, Julian whispered something in her ear. Amara nodded. "We're going to announce something very important. Starting today, this bank is launching the real and radical anti-discrimination plan. No more excuses. Anyone who discriminates is out, and anyone who has been a victim will be heard. No more silence. No more shame for being who you are." But the best was yet to come. As the press conference erupted in applause and divided comments, an elegant man in his 60s, with a gold pin on his lapel, made his way through the crowd. It was Victor Echeverry, the president of the bank's board of directors. "Amara," he said in a serious tone, "we need to talk now." "In private." Amara looked at him cautiously. There was something in his expression that didn't sit right. "What's going on?" "There's a leak. And not just in this branch. Someone inside the bank wants you out." Chapter 7. The Poison at Home. The boardroom at the headquarters was freezing. Tinted windows, a 12-seat oak table, and silence. Too much silence. Amara walked in with a steady step, but her senses were on high alert. "What's this story about a leak, Victor?" she asked, crossing her arms. Victor Echeverry, the president of the board of directors, sat down slowly and slid a folder toward her. "You'd better read it for yourself." Inside were screenshots, emails, audios, leaked conversations. Everything pointed to a systematic plan to discredit Amara. Manipulated documents, rumors planted in financial media, false accusations of abuse of power. And the worst part, the person leading it all was Julian, her trusted assistant. No, Amara whispered, stunned. He's been with me for 5 years. Exactly. That's why no one suspected. Chapter 8. The Dirtiest Betrayal. He was called in immediately. Julian arrived at the office unaware that they were waiting for him. His dark blue jacket seemed tighter than ever. Amara looked him in the eye. "Want to tell me what this is?" she said, throwing the folder onto the table. Julian looked at her, and he didn't deny anything. "I created this opportunity for you. I put you on a map, Amara, and you just used it to fill yourself with glory. You put me on a map? I worked 3 times harder than everyone here to get where I am." Amara shouted, furious. "Do you know what it's like to be ignored for my skin color, my accent, my history?" Julian smiled bitterly. "That was your shield. Every time someone doubted you, you screamed, 'Racism,' and everyone shut up. I taught you how to play the game, but you believed it. You thought you could rule without being held accountable." Victor stood up. "Julian, you're fired. Effective immediately. We have all the evidence, and it will be handed over to the authorities." Julian didn't move. He just looked at Amara with hatred disguised as disdain. "Someday, everyone will know who you really are. And when that happens, I'll be watching from somewhere, laughing." He was escorted out by 2 security guards. Chapter 9. The ending they didn't expect. 2 days later, Amara called a national press conference. This time, there were no long speeches or prepared applause. Just her, and a piece of paper. "Today, I close a chapter," she said. "This experience has been the most bitter of my career. I was humiliated for being black, judged for my appearance, betrayed by the one person I trusted the most. But still, I don't regret it." She took a deep breath. "I resign as CEO of Banco Central Financiero because this bank needs a complete renewal. And that renewal doesn't come from an office on the 20th floor. It comes from the streets with the people." An overwhelming murmur filled the room. The media didn't know whether to applaud or ask more questions. "And what will you do now, Amara?" a reporter shouted. She smiled for the first time in days. "I'm going to start a new financial institution. One where everyone, absolutely everyone, can walk in without being looked at with suspicion. One where a woman with braids isn't a threat, but an inspiration. And I already have my first investors, those who dare to speak up today." Epilogue: The New Bank. A year later, Equidad Financieros Amara was trending in every news outlet. Their slogan: "It's not charity, it's justice." The main branch had a mural with a phrase carved in stone. "They denied you a seat. You built the building." And below it, a line of people of all ages, skin tones, and accents waiting their turn without fear. Because they knew that here, at last, they were seen.